Well, welcome everybody to this episode of Powerhouse Conversations featuring your guy, Mr. Motivator. Hey, look, we are back and we're back with a wonderful interviewee. I like to think I met Kate recently at one of our alumni Powerhouse networking conferences. And let me tell you, I was amazed and blown away by Kate. So, welcome everybody, Kate, to Powerhouse Conversation. Let's give her a round of applause. Yay!
Hi, hey Jamal, how are you?
I am great. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. It's a little rainy here, but I'm good.
You know, it seems like winter has come before fall has had a chance to set in.
Yeah. I think that's how it is. We go straight from summer into winter.
Straight from summer into, and I'm not used to it. Okay, let me stop lying. I am used to it. I just hate it.
I agree.
I hate it. So, for anyone who wants to see any previous conversations or know more about Fostering Change Network, feel free to go to fcnfoundation.org. Everything you need regarding the foundation is there. So let's dive into this, Kate. So why don't you tell us about yourself?
Well, like you said, I am Kate, Catherine Patten. I am a coach, trainer, and facilitator. And while I work with any individual, my focus is actually on working with youth and families and child and family serving professionals. I am originally from South Africa. I can tell you that I experienced childhood abuse. And growing up in South Africa, we really had a lack in child or family serving systems. So it was many years before the abuse actually reached a legal capacity where it actually was addressed in a legal capacity. Shortly after it was actually dealt with on a legal manner, my father passed away suddenly. So I was 17 years old. I didn't have the emotional strength or the mental well-being to actually deal with the life challenges that had come my way. So my way of dealing with the many adverse experiences was through risk-taking behaviors. I came to the United States when I was 18, and just eager to start a new life, I actually stayed undocumented in the country for several years. And then I was a young adult, I was in my 20s, and I came to the realization that I could either continue with my risk-taking behaviors and really a self-destructive path that I was on, or I could choose to learn from my experiences and take something positive away from them and move forward. So I wrote a letter to the White House apologizing and let them know where I was. And ultimately, I can say that I'm now a US citizen. But that really impacted me and the work I do today. So a lot of my focus is on working with underserved and at-risk youth and families, including foster youth and juvenile justice involved youth and families. I love it.
That's amazing. Now, that's one piece as far as you said you wrote a letter to the White House.
I did.
That is interesting because you don't hear of people who are in the country undocumented saying, hey, I'm here illegally.
Yeah.
And go to the White House. Did you get a response?
I did not get a response. The only thing that ever happened was when I actually went through the whole process, the legal process of becoming at first a permanent resident and then a citizen. They actually said to me, oh, so you had a little blip back in 1990, whatever it was. We see that in our records. So they indicated, obviously they knew, but no one ever responded. I sent the letter, and that was it. Funny enough, years later, I actually went to the White House for a meeting, but I went from writing a letter to going there. So it was interesting.
Awesome. Yeah. So explain your approach to counseling and counseling individuals to help them understand how to overcome some personal, social, or even behavioral problems that affect their educational or vocational situations.
Okay, well, what I can say is really it's different for everybody. The approach to working with any individualized for me, I feel should always be an individualized approach. That said, with some of the youth and families that I'm working with, especially those that have system involvement, actually have a team of professionals working to support them. So very often you're going to have your counselor or your therapist also working with them. Now, what a counselor or therapist will do is they can help to delve into the past, to really understand the individual's past and how that past might be impacting today's behaviors, to reach those successes and move forward towards those vocational or educational goals, regardless of what they are. I don't provide counseling. I'm a coach. So the difference being in that as a coach, yes, we recognize the past, but we look at where we are right now. Where are you now in your life? Where is it that you want to go? And then recognizing and realizing what the goal is, we can look to address obstacles, overcome those obstacles, and work with an action plan to move forward into where it is you want to be, to reach those educational, vocational, or other personal goals.
How has your work with the families that you have worked with in the past given you that light of I'm doing a great job, I'm doing a good thing?
You know what? It's wonderful. Just sitting down and speaking to them and seeing a smile on their face when they reach their own aha moments, like, oh yes, this is what I want. And then I can tell you that I will get text messages just to say thank you so much. It meant so much to me that you believed in me when no one else did. I have a policy, and they all know it. I always tell them they are welcome to reach out to me at any time, day or night, anytime, day or night. When I go to bed, I put my phone on Do Not Disturb on purpose, and they know that. But that means that I wake up in the morning and I might have text messages or a voicemail. But just to see them succeeding in what it is they've identified they want. And yes, when they do turn around and say, thank you so much, it meant the world of difference to me that you were there to support me and believed in me.
So in hearing your response, a lot of your clients that you've worked with, have continued to work with, of course, have difficult life experiences. Of course, we all, me personally, of course, everyone knows growing up in the system, we all have difficult life experiences. From your mindset, your thought process, how can we transform those life experiences to really push us or propel us into a better either mind state or just a better life?
Okay. Well, I think, for everyone, to me, everyone has a story, right? And what you choose to take away from that is your choice. But in working with individuals to really move forward and to, in a sense, utilize their own life experience for the positive, I encourage them to look at their own strengths. It's really about building that self-awareness. Who am I? And what are my strengths that are going to allow me to move forward even with my past? Because you can learn from that and you can move forward into a successful and healthy future. So yeah, identifying the strengths. Once that strengths are identified, we can better build coping skills and resiliency mechanisms. So I really encourage that. That being said, yes, like you mentioned, I work, some of my youth and families that I'm working with come from exceptionally difficult experiences. And I always encourage focusing on mental health. So if that means speaking to a therapist, speak to a therapist. Some of the young people, especially young males, don't want to speak to a therapist. And I encourage it because there is so much promise that you have regardless of what your past is.
How do we, and speaking on therapists, how do we destigmatize therapy? Of course, a lot of, like you said, young males like myself, early in life, I know I would never go see a therapist. I wouldn't be caught dead seeing a therapist because the misconception of going to therapy is that, of course, you're crazy. But if you really look at it unconventionally, we seek out therapy in other people, those people that we trust, those people that we have real intimate relationships with.
Yeah.
That could be seen as therapy. But how can we destigmatize professional therapy, in your opinion?
I think it's really honestly about talking about it more. And, as far as, we speak about young men and males, have the young men talk about it. Have the young males talk about it, saying it's okay. And yes, like you said, very often the ones we trust are the ones we turn to and speak to about certain things. That being said, and I myself had gone through therapy. Sometimes there's a different aspect, obviously, getting it from a professional, but also speaking to someone who doesn't know anything about you. There are no preconceived notions of who you are. So it's a stranger, and they're just hearing from your perspective. They haven't brought their own perspective to the table. So there is something to said about that. That being said, I found we actually have one activity that we work with youth, and it's an emotions activity where they're working through emotions and identifying, this is what I'm feeling, or this is the last time I felt joy or anger or frustration, whatever it is. And to see them actually work through this activity and enjoy it, and then talk to one another about it, it kind of destigmatizes things, just because it's not like, ooh, it's therapy, So I think communication is a big part of it, and coming out and saying it's okay to see a professional therapist.
That reminds me of a exercise that I used to do as a young kid, and it wasn't professional, it wasn't one-on-one therapy, but it was a group therapy session that used the performing arts as its medium. And one of the exercises we had to do all the time was we had to stand back to back and we had to say, "I love you, but I hate you," and try to keep a straight face. And how easy it was doing it back to back, but then we had to turn around and say it to each other, "I love you, but I hate you," but have this stale face about it and not try to crack a smile. And that made me, what you said, that time made me remember that, and even how hard it was looking someone in the face to tell them, "I love you, but I hate you."
I hate you. Yeah, sure.
And it's interesting when you do those types of exercises, how much really comes out of those experiences.
Yeah, I love it. But I also think, as far as moving forward with exercises, it's very important to have youth at the table, to say to them, what is going to work for you? How can we connect with you? Yes, I realize we were all young people at one point. But you know what? Especially in today's services and our changing systems, bring the young person to the table, say to them, what is important to you? How can we better reach you, and how can we better meet your needs? Same to be said for families or anyone that is going through a situation.
So in working with, of course, the many, many families, we talk about there's family values and system values and things like that. How would you say the first steps into making values a reality? I know I have to talk about myself.
Sure.
As far as reality is, I was in 9 different placements, but I have values and morals from each one of those placements that I've been in and I've experienced. But where the challenge was for me was to bring all of those things together in this gumbo pot of who I am and what I want my value systems to be. To work, not only for me, but for the family. So how do we make our values more of a reality when it comes to?
What I found, and values are so important because values impact our everyday lives. It's who we are. And like you said, you were drawing on values from different placements, right? And from different experiences. And that's how we do build our own values. But it is amazing to me that I will sit down and work with an individual and say, okay, well, what are your values? And the amount of times that I get, I don't know. I don't know what my values are. So in being able to make your values a reality, I would say start with identifying what your values are. And that might just be through doing a values inventory. really discovering what they are. That being said, our values can change, right? So the values of a young single person, or yourself as a young single person, let's say, could be very different from your values as a parent, okay?
Right.
That being said, when we look at our values and those core values, you'll very often see trends and what keeps popping up, and those are your core values that is important in every aspect of your life. So in making our values a reality, I would say start by identifying what they are. Identify your values. Once you know what your values are, create boundaries, to really set those boundaries and not be afraid to say no. Okay, not be afraid to say no to someone. At the same time, don't be afraid to say yes. Because sometimes we have this underlying fear. I know I do myself sometimes, and we're afraid to say yes too. But when we can identify that values, set our boundaries, and then really say yes when need be and say no when need be, we can actually allow our lives to be most closely aligned with the values we want.
And this is what I find just in talking to peers and family and friends, it's hard to say no and not feel bad about it.
Oh, yeah.
It just is, because it's like, okay, I want to be that giver, or, I really want to help this person, but it doesn't align with what I believe and what those values are, but you still feel bad about it.
Oh, yeah.
How do you get over that?
Look, you're still human. You're going to feel bad. We want to be able to help, right? And sometimes you do feel guilty. It's not really just about getting over it. You've got to ask yourself, okay, can I really live with saying yes? If you can, go ahead and do it. I'm not saying absolutely every single time you say no. But if you can, look, we want to be able to go from our comfort zone to our stretch zone, but not necessarily in our stress zone. When we're in our stress zone, we're more likely to bounce back and not move forward. So if it's taking you slightly out of your comfort zone and into a stretch zone, that's fine. Say yes. But if it's so far removed from what your values are, don't say yes. Say no to that.
Okay, so this kind of brings me to another question, because you kind of touched on comfort zones.
Yeah.
And I know, as a motivator, I tell people you grow the most when you're uncomfortable. How has the fear of moving forward paralyzed either clients, yourself? How has that had an effect on just that forward progression? Just that fear that just freezes you?
Yeah. Fear is a huge thing, that absolutely. And I can, I can speak about clients and say that I've seen it happen, but I can tell you I've seen it happen with myself.
Right.
That little bit of self-doubt, and I think, but I know where I am now. This is a place of comfort. And I can talk even about professional growth. For me, it's scary sometimes putting myself out there. I work as a trainer and facilitator, so I'm very much in front of people all the time. Yet I'm also very much a private person. But part of what I do is putting myself out there and putting my private into the public. So that can be scary for me. But I've found that when we put ourselves into an uncomfortable situation, right? And more into the stretch zone. So when we think of our zones of existence, we want to think of, yes, you've got your comfort zone. Then you've got your stretch zone. So that's just past your comfort zone. You're experiencing something new. Beyond the stretch zone is the stress zone. And that is so uncomfortable to you. That's when you're likely to bounce all the way back and not have any forward motion. But if we can put ourselves into a stretch zone, you soon realize that stretch zone becomes your new comfort zone. And that's how we move forward towards progressing to what the next level is.
And I think that is applicable in any arena.
Yeah, very much so.
Okay, so just a few more, because I know I'm loving the conversation. What gives you your greatest joy?
My greatest joy, honestly, I love helping people. I love seeing others realize their successes, realizing their own strengths. That being said, I've got to say that my son and my husband, they're my family. They bring me joy every day, and everything I do is really because of them. I love it, and they for me are a dream come true.
I would agree. I would have to say that the one I didn't expect to be a father of four growing up. Didn't say I didn't want kids, but I never expected my life to be the way it is now.
Oh, sure.
4 kids and married 13, so 13 years. So it is a wonderful thing and a wonderful time in life now.
Oh yeah.
So one of my signature questions, and I think it's always good to let your hair down a little bit. What is something that you would consider weird about you that no one knows?
That no one knows?
That no one knows. Well, they'll know now, but something.
Well, I've got a lot of quirks. Look, I'll be completely honest. I've got a lot of quirks. Okay. I'm trying to think what people don't know. Oh, I am petrified of frogs. Absolutely.
What?
Petrified of frogs. Yes. Now, growing up in South Africa, I lived on a farm for a while. We had snakes and things like that, wild pigs and stuff. Fine. But show me a frog, and I completely freak out.
Okay. So I will make sure that a frog doesn't come near you when I'm around. Is it one of those mice feelings that for mice kind of scurries across the floor? You kind of jump in a chair and scream?
I jump and I scream and all sorts of things. I mean, and anything else, spiders and stuff, I'm fine. But a frog is terrifying to me, and so much so that my son gets tons of joy out of it because he loves to chase me around. He's a teenager now, so he thinks it's wonderful to scare me at any chance he has.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's amazing, and for me, I think that's not only refreshing, but I ask those questions because it makes us human.
Oh yeah,
right? It does. It makes us human, and that's part of enjoying life as well.
Sure.
So Catherine Patten, I want to thank you for taking time to be on and be a part of Powerhouse Conversations. If you want to connect with Ms. Patten, you want to give a website or an email address or social media?
Honestly, the best way to get hold of me really is by phone.
Okay.
So that is, I don't mind giving out my number. It's 609-513-4292. That is always the best way to get hold of me. Always the best.
And I wish you the best. We wish you the best. We thank you. I'm glad we connected this year. Yes, it's been wonderful. So, hey, you've heard it here first. You've got a chance to meet Catherine Patten. Of course, you see she's as phenomenal as I said she was.
Thank you.
So, and listen, look for the next Powerhouse Conversations. It's going to be posted on YouTube. Again, check the fcnfoundation.org website. Again, for more information, for more ways to help youth that are experiencing care as we get ready to launch a couple new initiatives. So be on the lookout. Catherine, thanks again. Thanks, Jamal. Have a great day. You too. Bye. Bye. Flying by, yeah, I'm just flying by.